This is question 22 on the higher calculator paper. I'm just reading the question to begin with. If I just straighten this a bit. Yeah. The question says, solve 2x squared plus 9x minus 7 equals 0. So I have a quadratic equation that it wants me to solve. And it says, give your solutions correct to 3 significant figures. Now that's a big clue, because in order to solve a quadratic, you first need to factorize it. I'm just going to try here to see if it can be factorized, but I very much doubt so, because it says give your answer to 3 significant figures. I think the answers are going to be in decimals, and so I might need to use the quadratic formula. If I just think about this, if that's 2x squared at the front, then in here it'll be 2x and x, and now I need to get 7, right? So 7 is 1 and 7, so 1 and 7 could be there, or it could be the other way around, right? And I need to get 9 out of that. So 2 times 7 is 14, 14 and x, I can't combine those to give me 9, and then 7 times x is 7x, 2 times 1 is 2. I could combine that, so let's try that. If I had 7 there and 1 over there, right, I want to have minus 7x to be my answer, so one of those has to be plus and one has to be minus. So 7 times x is 7x, and 2 times x is 2x. The only way of combining those to get 9 is to add them. I want to get plus 9, so that will have to be plus and that will have to be plus. But that's not going to work, because 7 times 1, or plus 7 times plus 1, is not going to be minus 7. So this is not going to work. I'm going to need to use the quadratic formula, as I thought at the beginning. The quadratic formula is given to you on the formula sheet. So on the formula sheet, you've got this here, right? And you could go straight to that. You should be able to, at this stage, especially people aiming for an A or an A star, you should be able to use that formula and go straight to it. And you don't need to remember it. It's in the formula sheet. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to write down the formula, though. X is equal to minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And in this equation up here, a is the number in front of x squared, which is 2. b is the number in front of x, which is 9. And c is the number on its own, which is minus 7. And all I have to do now is to put these numbers into my quadratic formula and work out the values that x could be. There are going to be 2 answers for this. So I'm going to go do it, replace b with 9, so minus 9, plus or minus the square root of 9 squared minus 4 times 2 times minus 7 all over 2 times 2. A is 2. So working all of these out now, I'll get 9 plus or minus the square root of 9 squared is 81. Minus 4 times 2 is minus 8. And minus 8 times minus 7 is plus 56. Now be careful with the negative signs there. You could use your calculator to help you, but this is a common thing that they test for in exams. Minus times a minus is a plus, right? In the denominator I've got 4 there. Now just tidying this up, I'll get minus 9 plus or minus the square root of 81 plus 56. If I just work that out, 81 plus 56, that's going to be 137. 137, and I'm going to divide all of that by 4. Okay, so I'm going to split this up now and try to see if I can work out the number value. So I have minus 9 plus the square root of 137, divide all of that by 4, and then I'll have x is minus 9 minus the square root of 137, and then divide all of that by 4. So there are my 2 bits that I'm going to use the calculator now to work out. So I'm going to use the minus button, minus 9 plus the square root of 137 equals, and divide that number by 4, and that gives me this value, 0.67617. So I'm going to write several of these numbers down. 0.666174, and so on. And now doing the next one, minus 9 minus the square root of 137 equals, and divide that by 4. That gives me minus 5.176 minus 5.176, and just write a couple more, 174, and so on. Okay. One of the things that the question said to do was to give the answers to 3 significant figures. So if I look at this one here, 3 significant figures, 1, 2, 3. Okay. One of the things that you don't do is you don't count the zeros at the front. So starting over again, right? Don't count any zeros at the beginning. You start counting from the first number. So it's 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to cut it off there. I need to look at the next number along, and if that number is 5 or more, then I'll round up. But in this case, that's not 5 or more. So one value of x is going to be equal to 0.676. That's one of my answers. If I go to the next answer, again, this time no zeros at the front, so I'm going to start counting from here. 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to cut it off there. Look at the next number along and check to see if that's 5 or more, and in this case it is. So that means that that 7 there, when I round up, that 7 is going to turn into an 8. So my second value of x is equal to minus 5.18. And both of those numbers in my answer are to 3 significant figures. There's a lot in this question, right? But it is pretty straightforward because you have to use the quadratic formula, and this formula is given to you in the formula booklet at the front. If you take your time, you should be able to do it. You should be able to get full marks in this. They're quite tight with the marks here, just 3 marks. But those people aiming for an A on A star, you need to be able to do this, and you should be able to get full marks in it. Let's go on to part B. In part B, the equation they've given you, they said solve, and they've got this equation here. Give your answer correct to 3 significant figures. So very, very similar to the first part of the question. However, one of the things that you need to be aware of is links between part A and B in questions of this type. And the equation in part A was 2x squared plus 9x minus 7 equals 0. And you could see there's a link between both of these, because here I've got 2 over y squared, 2x squared. I've got plus 9 over y. I've got 9x, and then just 7, and again just 7. So there's a link between them. In fact, what's been done is that x has been replaced with 1 over y, and that's a substitution that's been done. And this is quite a challenge to make sure that you spot it. But if you're on the ball, and if you're aiming for the top grade, you need to be able to spot this. You can see that x has been replaced by 1 over y. Now we worked out what x was in the previous part. We worked out in the previous part that x was 0.1676 and minus 5.18. So to work out what y is, I need just to rearrange this, and what I could do here is just sort of flip both sides, right? X is the same as 1 over x, so if I flip both sides, I'll get 1 over x is equal to y over 1. In other words, y is equal to 1 over x. I'm going to use that to help me work out the 2 values of y, because when x is 0.676, y is going to be 1 divided by 0.676, and in the other case, when x is minus 5.18, y is going to be 1 over minus 5.18, and I'm going to use my calculator to work out what those values are. So the first one, 1 divided by 0.676 equals, let's just write all of that down, 1.47928 and so on. And the other one was 1 divided by 5.18, actually 1 divided by minus 5.18 equals, that's minus 0.19305, and so on. Now, we're not quite done yet, because this question says give your answers to 3 significant figures. So I'm going to do that, 1, 2, 3. I'm going to cut it off there. The next number along, check it, that's a 9. If it's 5 or more, I need to do some rounding. So in this case here, y is going to be 1.48. Because of that 9, that 7 is going to turn into an 8. And on the other side, don't count the 0 to begin with. I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, and cut it off there. The next number along is a 0. So to 3 significant figures, y is going to be minus 0.193. Okay, there is my answer to this, and it's just 2 marks. Not a lot for the amount of effort and the difficulty level of this question. However, as I said, if you're aiming for top grade, you need to be able to do this. Make sure you look at it a couple of times, make sure you understand what's been done, make sure you could do it yourself.